You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Three tropical cyclone threats around the world today that we've been following for some time now, actually. The main one at the moment that we're focusing on is Tropical Storm Marco, which is almost a hurricane. 70-mile-an-hour winds, a pressure of 993, and we'll be monitoring this for some time, at least for the next 48 hours. Expected to make a hurricane landfall in Louisiana or Mississippi, or somewhere close. We're also expecting Laura to enter the picture very soon as well. It already is looking pretty good over Hispaniola and dumping tremendous amounts of rain. On the other side of the world, in the Western Pacific, Typhoon Bavi could become a Category 4 on its way to South Korea, where it could deliver typhoon force winds, maybe worse, and over 200 millimeters of rain. So we've got all three subjects on our stream today, and we'll be able to take a look at all of them live. And we're really guided by your questions that you send in, as well as, you know, what people are talking about in our studio here. And I'd like to introduce them at this point. We've got Ike, Preston, Devon, Dominic, Farhan, Orlando, and Wyatt. Good afternoon or morning to all of you. In fact, evening in some places all around the world.
Day.
Good night. It's 8 p.m.
Good day.
Everyone.
Yes, good day.
Yes, indeed. So there's a lot of subjects that we want to talk about. But first, let's throw it to Devon, because you're our main hurricane guy, especially in the Atlantic right now. Which one are you watching the closest?
Well, the most immediate threat to the United States right now is, of course, Tropical Storm Marco, which continues to boil over here as a borderline hurricane. Had a decent bout of intensification last night, where it was able to sustain a 1.38 millibar per hour intensification for about 4 hours, and then it ended up leveling off, and it seems like it hasn't strengthened since then, since it's still 70 miles an hour.
And there it is on
So
the left-hand side, the water vapor imagery that Preston's showing us. Yeah.
So what you'll notice here on Marco is that, for one, it's a very small storm, and for two, it's battling a decent amount of shear right now. And you can see that with the clouds racing off to the north and east. That tells you that there's a lot of shear in that area. So what you're going to have there is that this storm is going to pretty much struggle to strengthen, at least in the current environment. Of course, the sea surface temperatures are ungodly in that area, 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
But because the storm is small, all that's going to take is the tiniest break in shear, and it'll be able to inch up another couple millibars like it did last night. So we've got to watch out for those breaks in shear. Right now, the NHC is expecting it to become a hurricane, as they should. And one of the things that I should note here is the spread in the track is something that I have not seen in quite a while. I gotta say that the 48-hour spread here, I mean, we've got the H-Mon taking it into Alabama on the eastern edge, and on the western edge, we have the HWRF keeping it off the southern coast of Louisiana and going into Texas.
I actually saw one of the models, and I forget which one now, but earlier on today, one of the models had, it might have been the Icon, had Laura literally chasing Marco away, and Marco stays out over the Gulf and dies.
That would be an insane track. Yeah, that would be an utterly insane track. But if both Marco and Laura end up being in the Gulf at the same time, that would be insanity. Yeah, you would expect something like that to happen because Marco would then undergo a cyclonic loop due to the Fujiwara effect. So, yeah, it would end up looping back around over the Gulf of Mexico and then die due to wind shear. So, that's the thing there. But, like I said, there is a tremendous amount of uncertainty with what this storm's going to be doing. Right now, we're currently expecting this storm to make landfall somewhere in Louisiana or Mississippi. But that's pretty much all that we can say at this point. The general track is supposed to be north-northwest. That's not expected to change. And we're expecting a hurricane to make landfall in that area. And then, of course, it's going to weaken rather quickly. Even though it is expected to slow down in forward motion, we're not expecting heavy rainfall to be an extreme concern like it would be with most slow-moving systems. And that mainly is a product of how small this system is. And, of course, the big boy that's going to be coming behind it.
Oh.
So
Cool.
let's go ahead and discuss that one now.
Well, before we get on to that, I just want
Laura.
to speak to Wyatt first, because you are sort of in the track of Marco, and just want to know your thoughts from Pensacola.
Yes, I am in the track, and there actually is a tropical storm watch right now, literally one county over to the west in Alabama. Yeah, I think that this is an overwhelmingly high uncertainty for 36 to 48 hours, with one model, like Nathan said, taking it, looping around in the Gulf and dying out, with some models taking it all the way to Alabama or Pensacola. So I am keeping watch over. We have stocked up on water here at my house, at least, just in case something happens. But we are keeping a close eye on it. Personally, I think that Marco will bring us some rain, maybe a little bit of gusty winds.
I think it would.
Yeah. We'll just have to really wait and see until it's going to, unfortunately, probably be the last second thing before we know exactly where it's going to land.
Oh, it always is, isn't it? Well, yeah. Devon, let's take a look at Laura then, which is looking pretty fantastic today, actually, considering the circumstances.
Yes, so I was just about to say, the first comment that I was going to say with Laura is that the outflow is absolutely insane with the storm right now. Goes to show you, once this thing, as long as it keeps its structure, once this thing emerges over the Gulf, it's not looking good, to say the least. Basically, the only thing that's going to be holding it back is that it's going to maintain a pretty decent clip in forward motion over the Gulf of Mexico, which would limit just how strong it could potentially get. Right now, of course, very heavy rainfall occurring over Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Very heavy rainfall is expected to happen over Jamaica and Cuba as it passes through. And now it's expected to be on the south side of Cuba because the center never reformed to the north of the Dominican Republic, to which I have to say that's actually a very good thing. Because if it reformed to the north, that would mean that the storm would have gone through the Florida Straits with that outflow.
Oh.
No.
It could still be pretty bad, though. I mean, looking at the models, unanimous agreement from all major models that it will be a hurricane landfall in the US from Laura. About 80% of them are saying it'll be a major hurricane landfall.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that it's not going to be bad. I'm just saying worst case scenario avoided.
Yeah.
Because if this thing went through the Florida Straits, that would have been essential. That would have essentially guaranteed a Cat 5.
Are you buying into those models though? The output right now, because we know how flaky they've been this year.
Well, I can't buy into a major hurricane at this time. I can't tell you that a major hurricane is going to make landfall. Right now, the NHC is expecting a Category 2 landfall. I think that's about right. I don't really think that you can go higher than that.
And that would be the strongest this year so far.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think that we can really go higher than Cat 2 at this point.
Any other thoughts from the team about our Atlantic systems just now?
Well, it's definitely a very interesting setup when we have two storms moving into the Gulf at pretty much the same time. And, earlier this weekend, we saw that maybe Louisiana was going to be double punch from both of these systems. Thankfully, it looks like Laura is probably going to move to the west a little more than yesterday, but that would put Texas and western Louisiana under the gun. And I mean, the models are definitely showing that this could be a potentially major system when it does so. So everyone pretty much on the U.S. Gulf Coast should be watching these storms very carefully. I know we do have hurricane warnings, I believe, in effect for Louisiana in the areas of Markville. I can bring those up.
Yeah, we got them on the screen here, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a storm surge warning in effect for Morgan City, Louisiana, into Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and Lake Borgne. Hurricane warning from Morgan City, Louisiana, to the mouth of the Pearl River. A storm surge watch for Sabine Pass into Morgan City, Louisiana. Ocean Springs to the Alabama-Florida border. Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and Mobile Bay. Hurricane watch for Intracoastal City, Louisiana, to west of Morgan City. Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and metropolitan New Orleans. A tropical storm warning for the mouth of the Pearl River to the Mississippi-Alabama border, and for Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and metropolitan New Orleans. A tropical storm watch is still in effect for Mississippi and Alabama and the Alabama-Florida border.
From the Mississippi-Alabama border to the Alabama-Florida border, yeah. And you can see those cones clearly. And from Laura, from its perspective, most of Cuba under tropical storm warnings at this point, as well as the southern Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands. The western tip of Cuba, the only location there that's under a watch on the main island. That will probably be upgraded soon as well. So thinking now, the Florida Keys, do we think there'll be significant impacts there from Laura now or not?
I don't really think so as of this time. Maybe some when it gets on its closest approach, I think that wind field could maybe just brush the Florida Keys. I don't really think there'll be major impacts, but again, the models this year have been a little iffy, so there is a tropical storm watch too, so you should be prepared if you're under any kind of tropical alert anyway.
All right, then let's take a look at what's going on the other side of the world right now. We've got Typhoon Bavi, and I'm trying to see, hopefully it's when I press this button that it will appear. Okay, perhaps not. Oh, there it is. Well, there's an ultra close-up of Typhoon Bavi right now. And of course, we've got a few people in Asia here as well who are here to talk about that, which will be affecting South Korea in about 3 or 4 days' time. Could be a major typhoon landfall. Only one has ever happened in South Korea, a long time ago in 1959. Who has thoughts on this?
Well, it's certainly an unprecedented event, and in fact, it just had gone in right now that ATCF has upgraded to an 80 miles an hour storm with a pressure of 973 millibars. So it is intensifying right now.
Yeah, looks like it. It's hot off the press then, 80 miles an hour, by the sounds of things. And it is starting to get a good eye in place, and it makes you wonder whether it might be just a little bit stronger than that.
I hope not.
Well, we all hope not, but
To be honest.
the model's saying pretty good agreement on pretty fast strengthening, rapid strengthening in the East China Sea.
What the models also agree on right now is that it might miss the Korean Peninsula altogether, which is a good thing.
They have definitely trended westwards, yeah. And to the point where the chances of storm conditions has pretty much halved for the eastern coast of South Korea.
Yes, that is true.
So we're monitoring all of these systems live, and you can see this 6-panel display here. On the top left-hand side is a live look at Laura. Bottom left is Marco. In the middle there, the big one is Bavi, and a few other views underneath me as well. Let's see if we can take some questions, shall we? Start your message with Force 13 all in text. We're here for the hour. A pretty short one today, but we will be doing more live events probably this evening, US time, and that will be tomorrow morning over in Korea. Let's see. How does Laura look so good over land?
Impressive outflow. That's what'll happen.
Is 2020? Well, this is a question for me. Is 2020 going to get the impression? Not the impression. The I've lost the word now. Well, the title of the year where the mountains didn't matter.
Well, I'm not going to necessarily say that, because there's historical precedent of tropical storms surviving over the Greater Antilles. If you want to go ahead and take a look at Tropical Storm Frederick from 1979, for example.
And 1979 was an analog for a while for this year.
Yeah, so, and you know what? This seems to continue to match Frederick almost pound for pound here, except it's expected to go further west in the Gulf of Mexico now. So it's not necessarily unprecedented, and of course, with a storm as weak as Isaias interacting with the Dominican Republic, center reformation such as what happened there isn't all that surprising either. So those two are two relatively common things that end up happening when you get weak storms interacting with the Greater Antilles.
This one, though, it doesn't look that weak. Is it just an illusion, or is it actually looking strengthening?
I shouldn't say weak in the case of Laura, because it's definitely very good right now. The convection that it's able to pull up right now is utterly insane. But it's certainly not a hurricane right now.
Yeah, no. Some good cloud tops in that.
Yeah, and the fact that it's been able to sustain that convection for hours this morning.
All right, we've got loads of questions that have come in now, so let's see about taking some of these. Could Laura slow down in the Gulf?
Not looking likely.
Okay.
Laura is going to absolutely be the dominant system in the Gulf. If anything, Marco's going to end up slowing down, but Laura's going to be coming through like a freight train.
J.H. Nelson says we have 6 names left on the naming list. Is that true?
8 name, I believe.
8.
Not 6.
But
Eight.
still, the question is, with how active September tends to be, do you think we could get to the Greek alphabet in late September or early October? Tell you what, I'm saying yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. I don't want to say it's going to happen, because there's always a chance that it's not going to happen. But, looking at how active the season's been in September, it's going to be likely very active. I think that it's a very high probability we will get there, but there's always a chance we don't get to the Greeks, but looks unlikely.
What peak do we expect for Laura? Well, Devon said there that he wouldn't really go above the National Hurricane Center's Category 2 peak right now. Does anyone else here think differently?
I think that there is a pretty good chance, honestly, in my opinion, that it could become Category 3 because, the warm ocean waters and stuff does permit strengthening. In addition, I was looking at the European model, and it is also showing a strong major hurricane actually into Texas.
That was one that happened not long ago.
Yeah.
Very interesting on that one. I've lost all my messages. So, sorry about that. No, I found them again. Here we are. or the chances that that isn't a complete message. So I'm not sure what to think about that. Will Bavi hit South Korea as a major typhoon?
If
Very
you're
unlikely.
looking from the current models, no, it's not likely. But who knows? It could shift east again, or maybe not. Anything could happen. But as of
Yeah,
now,
well,
no, not now.
most likely it will weaken as it's coming up to the Korean Peninsula and weaken down beneath major hurricane status. A Category 3 landfall on the Korean Peninsula would be amazingly unprecedented.
Yeah.
It's happened just the once with, can't remember whether it was Sarah or Sally, such similar names, aren't they? 1959, which clipped the southeast coast of Korea. That's the difference with this one as well. It's going to have a different trajectory, angle of attack with regard to South Korea as well. So that might also change its fate. I suppose it would be, from a scientific perspective, much more impressive, I suppose, that if it did make landfall as a major typhoon. But at this stage,
that would be completely unprecedented.
at this stage, it looks like the models are shifting west just a little bit, but we could still see typhoon conditions up in North Korea. Oh look, there's our trailer. I'm not sure why that showed up just then. Where did that come from? How very strange. Let's see if we've got more questions then. Could Marco strengthen any further than expected? Well, it already surprised us at the beginning. Is there any more surprises coming up?
Unlikely due to high wind shear.
Yeah. I would say probably not much stronger than about a 75 to 80 mile an hour hurricane at this point.
Aren't the National Hurricane Center only saying 75?
Yes.
Of course, if there's any lulls in the wind shear that allow it to strengthen more than 5 or 10 miles an hour, that would be indicative of more strengthening, but that seems rather unlikely at this point.
Will there be another update on Bavi? Well, there's going to be plenty of updates on Bavi, don't worry about that. I'm not sure when the next normal video update will be, but I think we'll be doing more live coverage in the morning Korean time on all three systems. That would be later this afternoon in the US. Will Marco become a Category 5? And they spelt it macro.
No.
No way.
Hurricane.
No.
I can assure you that we are not going to have a Category 5 hurricane macro.
Yeah.
0% chance of that happening.
Do we think...
Someone asked... Oh, sorry. Somebody is asking about recon and
yes.
for, I would assume, Marco, because Laura's done. They actually did find a recent center pass with a pressure of 991 millibars.
Ooh.
And then the next center pass went up to 994. So that makes me wonder if the 994, they missed the very center of the center. But I think it is strengthening. It does appear that it might be strengthening just a little bit. I don't see any signs of hurricane force winds at the surface yet. There is no hurricane observations at flight level either. So...
And we haven't yet mentioned this, actually. I imagine it's understood at that location, but for those who don't know, Grand Isle evacuation orders there beginning at 9 a.m. That's today, is it? Yep, right now.
Yep.
Well, that would have been a half hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually 9 a.m. Central, so not a half hour ago, half hour into the future.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, now you do. Mandatory evacuation order there for Grand Isle.
Yeah. I would recommend heeding that order if you're put under a evacuation order.
Definitely.
Yes.
Let's see if we take some more questions then. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. Why are storms usually stronger than predicted? Not always. Not always at all. Actually, they expected Marco to be a hurricane before hitting the Yucatan, if you remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I just remember
definitely missed the mark there.
People just remember the ones
Yeah.
that outperform more than the ones that underperform. It's just nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there was a depression last year that was forecasted to become a storm, and it never did.
Well, 10L was,
That was-
forecast to become a storm, and it never did.
It was okay. Yes, that I forgot about that actually. I was referring to 3 of last
Can't
year.
even remember what 10L was now. Oh, the African one, yes.
Yeah, the one that formed to the east of Cabo Verde.
Questions for Devon, apparently. What do you think about the upper level environment in the Gulf for Laura and the loop current it encounters as it exits Cuba?
Yeah, so the upper level environment is going to be almost perfect. Like, the conditions for Laura, I'm not going to mince words here. The conditions for Laura, as soon as it enters the Gulf of Mexico, you can go ahead and read the forecast discussion for yourself. The National Hurricane Center is saying basically the environment is going to be perfect. Low shear, very favorable outflow, 31 degrees sea surface temperatures, no dry air to speak of. That basically means rapid intensification.
I read that discussion
how
as
quick-
well, and the main question about it was how quickly it gets its course sorted out after all that land interaction.
Yep. And with the way that it's looking right now, it's probably not going to take long.
That's about Laura
So-
there, and that outflow still increasing by the looks of things. Expansive
Yeah.
almost all the way across to Venezuela.
Yeah, the outflow for Laura right now
Colombia,
is utterly insane. Like, it's for a 45-mile-an-hour tropical storm, the outflow that it's got right now is insane.
Yeah, and just compare
and it's
that to
expected to maintain that. So,
compare that to 70-mile-an-hour Marco.
Yeah, which, doesn't look that much the part, does it?
Yeah, it really doesn't have that kind of outflow. Although I would believe 70 miles per hour because, recon observations and the fact that it does have a nice, what appears to be a central dense overcast as well as a banding feature.
At least it's not trying to beat the last time it was used back in 2008, being the smallest storm ever. At least it's not doing that.
Yes. The Ace King says, when do you think the next storm is going to form? Well, we've sort of got our hands
please,
full
no.
with 3 at the moment, but I should point out that we have marked 2 other areas in the Atlantic for the later part of the 5-day period, 20% in the main development region and a 10% chance down near Central America. Some long-range models, or longer, suggesting that there could be a spin-up tropical cyclone over Central America next week and could move up towards the Western Gulf, but only a 10% on that at the moment.
Yeah, let's keep it that 10%.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Will Bavi maintain Category 3 until landfall, 115 miles per hour? Well, I'll tell you what on that. If it was a... just try and get that imagery again. If it's going to make landfall in the very southern tip of South Korea, the peninsula, or the island of Jeju, it could be as a Category 3. But if it moves up the western coast and makes landfall at least halfway up South Korea or in North Korea, as is currently forecasted, then you'll be looking at Category 1 probably.
yeah, it's going to weaken pretty quickly once it moves north of Jeju.
And the East Pacific areas of interest have got a mention there as well. They'll be thankful for you because they were not getting much attention. But this is the Eastern Pacific right now, and you can see an area of interest there on the right-hand side, which is likely to become our next tropical storm in the Eastern Pacific in a couple of days. That will move out to sea. probably become a low-end hurricane, and then later on there's potential for another tropical storm off the western coast of Mexico, which could affect land, but we're not quite so sure on that one just yet. Also, you can see another area of interest there between the American continent and Hawaii, just about on the line, the threshold between the eastern and central Pacific, and that's got an okay chance of maybe getting there as well. But that's the East Pacific in a nutshell. And
A very
Basically,
short
the
nutshell.
Atlantic, we're not expecting much out of the Atlantic over the next 5 days at this point.
not just yet. And this is another look at the Western Pacific with Bavi there as well, looking rather good on this particular imagery with its eye. And once again, there is Tropical Storm Marco. Oh, it went. There it is again. We're going to take a short break here. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. So we're back on the air once again, and I should point out just another mention of that one, the US live stream. We've got two floaters in essence, really, of Laura and Marco. When we're not live covering it right now, you've got three choices actually. You've got the 24/7 live stream, which is on our main channel, and at the moment we've got live satellite imagery of Laura and Marco on our Force 13 US channel. Just search Force 13 US. So another half hour here to take your questions and see what everyone's thinking about there. Let's talk to some people that we haven't heard from so far. Orlando, good morning to you.
Good morning.
What are your thoughts of these two tropical cyclones? Which should we be most concerned about? Well, both of them, really. I don't think we can say one more than the other, but go ahead.
Yeah. When I think of Marco and Laura, it's just mainly which one comes first. So obviously Marco is more of a direct concern because it's coming before Laura. But when it comes to the potential, really, I'd have to say there's more potential with Laura being more of a concern than Marco. It's been very interesting watching since last night of how Laura's decided to evolve. Of course, it has incredible outflow going on right now and plenty of convection to support itself. So it'll be interesting to see if it can actually maintain that through Cuba. And once it gets out into the Gulf of Mexico, of course, it's going to be smooth sailing for Laura, which is something that was going to be something that we have to watch out for, of course. But yeah, those are like my immediate thoughts. Concerns-wise, of course, is for me if Marco and Laura end up impacting similar locations, because that would be basically meaning Marco would just be insult to injury for those areas before Laura ends up arriving.
One of the burning questions there right now is why will Marco be affected by shear in the Gulf but not Laura?
Well, there's currently a trough in the Gulf of Mexico, which Marco's basically going to be clearing, and Laura's got unbelievable outflow right now that's basically going to push any shear aside. It's going to create its own weather environment, basically, and Laura's just there's not going to really be many inhibitors at this point in time that we see of Laura shooting up rather quickly in intensity.
J.H. Nelson says a Kelvin wave is entering the Atlantic and the Madden-Julian oscillation is approaching from the west, but what exactly does this mean?
Well, typically that would mean heightened activity in the Atlantic. And, well, we have 2 tropical storms currently active in the Atlantic. So I would say, yeah, we've got some pretty heightened activity right now.
Oh, well, that's simple.
So, yeah, redundant, but yeah, we've got heightened activity right now, and that's what we would expect.
When will be the first Category 5 in the Atlantic? Oh dear. Let's not make any predictions.
No.
Let's not get
Yeah.
into that, please. No, no.
Is there a low-pressure area developing in the South China Sea as part of Bavi's outflow? Now, let's take a look at that imagery again. I see what you're talking about, and that was also picked up by models a few days ago. It shouldn't become anything. Don't know if you have any thoughts on that one, Ike. Oh, that's very apt. Indeed. What are the chances of major typhoon winds in Pyongyang?
Less than 1%.
Yeah.
Major typhoon winds,
yes.
less than 1%.
Yeah.
If it's just typhoon winds, then likely.
Yep. And the chances of really
There's also
really rapid intensification when Laura exits Cuba with the almost ideal upper level environment favoring even more impressive outflow. Also the west shift. That was a question, apparently. I sort of lost the thread of that halfway through. But we'll just say yes, because that sounds about right.
Yeah, the rapid intensification chances right now, better than coin flip, I would say.
Oh dear. Will Laura and Marco go straight into land after landfall, or will it retreat, go into the ocean? I'll tell you one thing about this, Dev, I'm not sure if you've seen it. The earlier ECMWF run had Laura making landfall as a strong hurricane in Texas and continuing as a tropical storm, surviving inland all the way to the Outer Banks of North Carolina and then becoming a hurricane again out to sea.
That's not necessarily unprecedented. Camille did something similar.
It did indeed, but all the way from Texas, it's not that common.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I can't remember what year it was, but I think there was a bill that also did something very similar, and that was a very weak tropical storm.
Bill? I don't suppose...
I think that might have been 2015.
Really?
Yes.
I was thinking 2015, but I don't remember it managing all that. Let me just have a quick check. No, it survived as a TD until Oklahoma, at least.
Yeah, and then it was a post-tropical until like Ohio.
But ECMWF wants it to be a significant tropical storm with a maximum pressure of 993 as it goes through the US.
Wow.
I don't know.
Sometimes the ECMWF does that, where it just decides land interaction's not going to be a thing. I remember that there was one ECMWF run with Hurricane Hannah that had the storm make landfall in Texas as a 995 millibar storm and strengthen after it had made landfall all the way until the Mexico border, where it would cross into Mexico as a 988 millibar hurricane.
Oh my goodness.
So I wouldn't put our eggs into that basket just yet.
All right. Marco seems very right side lopsided. Does that mean Florida could have worse impacts than the actual landfall location?
No.
Oh.
Florida looks pretty okay at this point. Marco's a very small storm. It's not going to be anywhere close to the size of Laura. So I wouldn't expect, other than the western half of the panhandle of Florida, I wouldn't expect many adverse effects at all from Marco in Florida.
Another question, and it's really impressive if true, I highly doubt. Will we get a major typhoon here in North Korea this season?
No.
If
Very
you're
unlikely.
really in North Korea, we want an interview. Will there be another tropical storm behind Bavi because its tail? Not likely.
I think we just addressed that, actually.
And you did tag us on this one, but I've just caught it anyway. In your current opinions, how many tropical depressions, storms, hurricanes, major hurricanes, and Category 5s should we have in 2020 by this point in total? Are you talking worldwide or Atlantic or where? But in the what we can say in the Atlantic, we are. I don't even know how far ahead of schedule we are now.
Well, yeah, we're significantly far ahead of schedule in named storms.
Must be like
Anyways,
8 or 9 storms
we're
ahead.
actually, yeah. However, most of the storms have been rather weak, so I think we're pretty much maybe a slightly above average with accumulated cyclone energy. at this
Western
point.
Pacific is about 6 or 7 storms behind average. So
Well, that's because West Pacific has an absolutely dead July. Like, oh my god, it's so quiet. It almost brought me to tears.
oh dear.
I thought we actually predicted like 6 storms for July, and then pretty much nothing happened in July there. The Pacific this year has really been just quiet on all basins, maybe except for the South Pacific with Harold, but very quiet.
I'm wondering whether I should mention this or not, but the GFS model has a tiny possible tropical cyclone near Papua New Guinea in the next 48 hours.
Oh yes. I was looking
Oh my god, are you serious?
Yeah,
But
very
I believe
serious.
it's a trough that's just dropping downward across the sea. I don't think it's anything.
We've got a 10% on it.
Okay,
So-
alright.
Just to note,
Makes sense.
Well, it's gotta be. It's gotta be.
So just to note right now, with accumulated cyclone energy in the North Atlantic, we are currently at 28.8 right now, where the average is right around 20. So we're certainly running above average there. But something to note right now with the Western Pacific is that we've only had 9 named storms. So that's 3 storms behind pace.
Oh, is it?
We've only had 3 typhoons. That's 4 typhoons behind pace. Normally at this point we would have 56 and a half days with named storms. Right now we've only had 14 and a quarter,
Oh my goodness.
which
Oh, wow.
leads to one of the most ridiculous anomalies that I've ever seen, with an accumulated cyclone energy right now in the West Pacific of only 16 to this point, where the average is usually 110.
Wow.
That's pretty bad.
Wow.
So the Western Pacific has been not just dead, but like spooky dead.
It's
Until
basically-
now.
It's basically
Yeah.
inviting for extremely powerful super typhoon to come in. That's what it's doing right now, basically.
Basically, go on.
I mean, when it comes to records, where does 2020's Western Pacific typhoon season rank?
I wouldn't be able to look that up. I'm just looking at anomalies here.
Well, no,
But I would imagine that
1998
15.9
was remarkable. I only found this out recently. I think this is 6th or the 7th storm only formed on September 11th.
Wow.
So quite a way until we're doing as poorly in the Western Pacific as 1998. but still nonetheless rather quiet. Plenty more questions coming in for multiple subjects. How bad will Morgan City, Louisiana see the effects from Laura and or Marco?
Morgan City, Louisiana.
Yeah, that's like literally the very center of Louisiana, at the very south where that
That's sort of in the
Hey.
middle of Marco's cone.
Okay, in the
let me
middle
check
of
that.
Marco's cone. Well, if you're in the middle of Marco's cone, I would expect hurricane force conditions.
Well,
Let's see.
A bit inland.
There it is. Yeah. So Morgan City, that's quite a bit to the west of New Orleans and pretty much due south of Baton Rouge. So you have Marco there. Right now, I would be most concerned about Marco, obviously. Prepare for hurricane force conditions. I believe you guys are underneath our hurricane watch at the very least right now, if not a hurricane warning. If they've upgraded that to warnings yet, but you guys can definitely expect hurricane force conditions in the next 36 hours.
Will Laura hit South Florida?
Very unlikely at this point. South Florida, it can expect to get some showers and thunderstorms, especially the Keys. But Laura passing through the Florida Straits is basically not going to happen at this point. It's going to go to the south of Cuba.
Will the Western Pacific be inactive, like 2010?
Well, I think we've pretty much just covered
Sort of
that,
looks like
with
it.
the West Pacific being crazy inactive so far. So I'm going to say, yeah, I mean, there's nothing to necessarily kick it into high gear at this point.
Could Bavi be a Category 2 on the next update?
No. That's 6 hours from now? No. That would be quite a bit of strengthening.
Yeah, it would be from this point. Alright, just to remind everyone of the latest on all of the storms right now. Tropical Storm Laura has winds of 45 miles per hour. That's as of the last National Hurricane Center update, which was 8 a.m. Eastern. Next update's at 11. 19.1 north, 72.1 west. Tropical storm warning for the northern coast of the Dominican Republic from Cabo Engano to the border with Haiti, and the south coast from Cabo Engano to Punta Palenque. The northern coast of Haiti from Limos and Nicolas to the border with the Dominican Republic. The southeastern Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands, the Cuban provinces of Camagüey, Las Tunas, Holguin, Guantanamo, Santiago de Cuba, Granma, Ciego de Avila, Sancti Spiritus, Villa Clara, Cienfuegos, Matanzas, Mayabec, La Habana, and Artemisa. Those are probably all incorrect because I never learned Spanish. And a tropical storm watch is in effect for the central Bahamas, Andros Island, the Florida Keys from Ocean Reef to Key West, and the Dry Tortugas, Florida Bay, and the Cuban province of Pinar del Rio. So a lot of places with watches and warnings, but not as many as for Marco, which is at 70 miles per hour at this point, and is currently 210 miles northwest of the western tip of Cuba, 360 miles south-southeast of the mouth of the Mississippi River, with winds of 70 miles per hour. Storm surge warning for Morgan City, Louisiana to Ocean Springs, Mississippi, including Lake Bourne. A hurricane warning for Morgan City, Louisiana to the mouth of the Pearl River. A storm surge watch for Sabine Pass to Morgan City, Ocean Springs, the Alabama-Florida border, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and Mobile Bay. Hurricane watch for Intracoastal City to west of Morgan City, including those two lakes once again, and metropolitan New Orleans. A tropical storm warning for the mouth of the Pearl River to the Mississippi-Alabama border, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas, and metropolitan New Orleans included again there, and a tropical storm watch for the Mississippi-Alabama border to the Alabama-Florida border. According to the National Hurricane Center, they're expecting surges of up to 6 feet, so that's a storm surge for Marco, And in terms of rainfall, isolated maximums of 6 inches across the central US Gulf through Tuesday. Are we all in agreement with that? Must be.
Yes.
Must be. Could Laura strengthen any time today? Is a question that we've received.
Strengthen any time today? Probably not today.
You look
I
at that
wouldn't
right
expect-
now, it was 45 miles an hour, it still is as far as we know, but I might stick my neck out and say 50 on that.
I mean, yeah, it could be as strong as 50, but
Yeah. The NHC, as of right now, still keeping it at 45 miles an hour for the next 36 hours before quickly going up to hurricane force.
The National Weather Service in New Orleans, Louisiana, says that over 4 inches of rain will be possible with the landfall of Marco at hurricane strength. And they do say that they are also watching Laura. However, it is probably going to move a little bit to the west than what they say. The tornado threat will likely be greater with Laura than Marco.
Interesting.
Ooh, I'm looking at the Weather Prediction Center, and just offshore of Louisiana, Mississippi, there's like some rainfall totals as high as like 7 inches possible. Looks like so. Yeah.
Fine line.
And that's over the next 7 days.
Let's see, what else have we got here? More questions at this point because we're almost out of time. Could Laura... we had that one. Laura is looking better inland than some storms over the ocean. That's a statement, and probably one that most of us would agree with. Do we think that Bavi's track could shift back east, and if so, how much? There's always that
that's
risk.
pretty much a random number generator at that point.
Not really at the current trends, in my honest opinion.
Is it possible for a Category 5 Laura? I mean, a Category 5 was predicated apparently, by the HWRF yesterday.
Yeah.
And the day before. And the day before that. But I believe all those runs depended on Laura moving through the Florida Straits. So, with Laura not going to be able to move through the Florida Straits now, a Category 5 is much less likely now than it was before. Can't rule it out. Hopefully it doesn't happen. That's pretty much all I can say about that.
Could one of these storms hit San Antonio or Houston?
Uh,
San Antonio? Well, Houston, yes. Laura could definitely move as far west as Houston. San Antonio,
Oh my.
it's really going to require moving the heavens and the earth to get either of these storms that far west.
yeah,
Definitely.
I have to agree.
Will Bavi be only 300 miles from China's Shandong province? Everyone's going to whip out the maps now.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to answer that.
I'm not fully well versed either. I imagine it's pretty close to where the storm is right now. It is currently about, I think it's 220-ish miles from Okinawa. And on the other side towards China, that's probably nearly 300 miles to the closest point of land.
I think it's, if my Chinese class serves me right here, I think Guangdong is in the southeastern China region. I think that's about currently 740 kilometers away from Guangdong province. But
Not Guangdong, Shandong, which is further northeast actually. I've found it here. It's the part near the Yellow Sea that sticks out. There could, that exposed area towards the east there, that could get affected by strong tropical storm winds. Probably not typhoon though. Is the fact that Laura isn't weakening at all over land concerning that it might rapidly intensify in the Gulf? I mean, is there any correlation with this, or is it just a matter of, well, I don't know what happens.
Well, right now the big thing with the rapid intensification in the Gulf is if all that Laura needs to do is maintain its impressive outflow, which there's no reason why it wouldn't at this point, and it's going to be able to do it.
Ouch. When will Nana form?
Don't know. Not important to figure out right now.
And that
Yeah.
Marco is Michael 2018 from the dollar store. It could be. It could be.
Yes.
Hashtag LOL.
Wow.
Devin's
That's
speechless. You've rendered him
pretty much a
speechless.
good description of every storm this year so far. Isaias has been Hurricane Floyd from the dollar store.
Yeah.
You have Hurricane Hannah, which was basically, what was that storm's name? From 1970 that hit Texas.
Celia?
Celia, yeah. The dollar store version of Hurricane Celia. There you go. For Hannah. And now we've got Dollar Store Michael here with Hurricane Marco. No, but seriously though, if you're in the path of Hurricane Marco, please take this storm seriously because it can bring some storm surge overland, and we're looking at a pretty. A hurricane landfall is never a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna use a fairly recent comparison, you'd given its track, its landfall location, you'd probably talk about Isaac, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Yes.
but Isaac's a radically different storm. Isaac was much larger and stronger.
Oh yeah, and if it happens to shift more towards Mississippi, I would compare it also with Nate of 2017. I don't know if anyone would.
That's some trash there.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Oh, there we have it. Can we talk about the two high-risk areas in the Eastern Pacific? We did mention them earlier. They're not getting very much attention, it has to be said. Where are they?
Oh dear.
Yes?
We have a fatality in Haiti. A tree falls down on a house and kills a 10-year-old girl in Haiti from Laura. Two deaths have been confirmed. Two deaths has also been confirmed in the Dominican Republic after a house collapsed on an elderly woman and her child. Not a good news to have.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're probably going to hear a lot more of that.
Prayers with their family.
Yes.
So this is the Eastern Pacific right now. The right-hand side, an area of interest that will probably become a hurricane. On the left-hand side, another little area of interest that could become something. But neither of these will affect land. And that's pretty much everything from Force 13 HQ at this time. And we'll have more on all of this, you bet, throughout the afternoon and evening hours, and we'll probably ramp up our coverage a lot tonight as well. Thanks very much to my team for joining me today. Some people got up very early for that.
Or very late in the case of me.
Yeah,
It's almost
staying up late.
9:30 now.
It goes worldwide. We've got a lot of committed people who bring to you the very latest wherever the storms are. Thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for viewing as well. We will probably have another update at about 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Once we confirm it, we'll have it up on YouTube, you know, with the timer countdown and whatever you have it there. In the meantime, we've got 3 live streams running right now. The live 24/7 tracker on our main channel and live satellite imagery of Laura and Marco on the Force 13 US channel. Look at Force 13 US for those. That's all from us here. We'll be back again soon. Have a good day, and we'll see you again soon.